Hey everybody, welcome back to the LuckyDog Podcast. This is your host, Elias Rouse. This podcast is sponsored by EliasRouseMedia.com, photo, video, digital media production. Today we are discussing Outer Banks, Season 3. And I admit this is the second time I've had to podcast this because for some reason I went off on a Marvel tangent on the previous one, and I realized I was talking about Marvel for 5 minutes and their CGI versus talking about Outer Banks Season 3. I don't know why. I was just like I was fucking going off. So I don't know why I'm just like tickled by it. But anyways, I gotta say, let's kind of take it from there though. We can streamline this. Okay, so I was discussing about Marvel, and the reason I was discussing is because they are a big conglomerate of media providers. They are putting out so much shit. So I'm like, their shit better look good. And it's progressively gotten less good. And they're being $200 million projects, $100 million projects. They're putting so much money at the wall that when I look at Outer Banks season 3, I'm like, yes, this show is not perfect by a long shot, but it feels like kind of old school TV back in the early 2000s when we could watch this type of stuff without having so many effects driven parts of the show. And I feel like I know the Marvel shows are completely different. There's so many effects as comparison to this, but it's almost visually arresting now to see practical backgrounds. I noticeably saw a dip in season 3 of Outer Banks, I'll be honest. This obsession with fathers and finding treasure and all this stuff, the will they, won't they's, Pogue life versus Kook life, Goblin life. Uh, it's a little bit played out by the third season, and there are plot threads that I feel like don't 100% make sense and aren't 100% resolved, but end up somewhat being kind of swept under the rug by the end. Uh, Season 3 is sloppy. I'll say that. But as I opened up the podcast, there's something about it that's just so interesting about being on the quote unquote East Coast, or at least in real sets. And you can tell that they actually either went to the sets or they had these real backgrounds. The drone shots of the sunsets are just immaculate. They look like our planet cinematography. I've talked about this in the previous uh, podcast about Outer Banks, and with saying that, I'm like, I can only say basically the same thing so many times. I'm like, I enjoy hanging with them. I enjoy the cinematography of the show. I'm noticing a major dip in quality from season to season. Season 3 is normally, so here's what generally happens with seasons is the first one out the gate is like, holy Santa Claus shit, how did that, like, where did that come from? The first time you're seeing a piece of content, you're like, wow, that's amazing. Season 2 normally is a diversion in quality or some sort of diversion in storytelling that maybe a lot of times people are not so happy with, or it's slower or faster, or they put more money into the action scenes and less into the story or whatever in season 2, where they take away money, such as they did with The Walking Dead, I think. They were like, you need to do twice as many episodes and you're going to do for half the budget. So it's like, damn. So a lot of times season 3 is a point in a time for a show to come back with a punch and a gusto. And so I think season 3 stretched credulity on a number of levels. Now, here's the thing. It's been about a week and a half since I've finished it, and I don't have the full synopsis of season 3, but I'm going to have to regurgitate the majority of the season, key points, probably out of order, but we'll discuss how it starts and how it ends. Uh, right off the top, just so that I can get off the top of my head. Because I'm like barely holding on to this. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna forget if I don't fucking podcast it. Oh my god, so also, I think I just talked about this earlier. I can't remember if it was in this podcast or a previous one that I'm fighting the pollen. There's like a major pollen outbreak on the East Coast, and I didn't know that I was so sensitive to it. And I don't have my allergy medicine, so that's why I was like, so I apologize for that. I've been trying to wait a few weeks to podcast so that I have my voice back 100%. So if you hear me kind of like, oh my god, like stretching my voice, it's because I'm doing it because the pollen is so dry in the air. It's so fucking dry. Didn't know that I was this sensitive to it. So speaking of that, I'm going to get a little bit of water before we kind of begin the synopsis of or the entire plot of this season. And like I said, I would have expected you to have watched this season 3 at this point. We're going to talk about spoilers for the whole thing. What I recommended, I think it's still interesting and it's better than a lot of television that is out there. The whole thing about Outer Banks is, are you at least entertained and having a good time? And despite its 33% on Rotten Tomatoes for season 3 in comparison to, I believe it was 70. So season 3 has an approval rating of 33 based only on 6 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, so that's subject to change, with an average rating of 2.9 out of 10. I think that's a little harsh for your Rotten Tomatoes. Season 2 had an 86% approval rating based on only 7 reviews, so not many people are reviewing this on there. 6.7 out of 10. And then season 1 had an approval rating of 71% off of 21 reviews, sitting around 6.7 out of 10 rating. So I think, like I said, what I recommended, if you're already entrenched in the world, it's still better than nothing. If you're like, I don't know what to watch, it's still better than nothing. I don't want to say that it's necessarily bad, but there are like pieces of the story that I'm like, I don't think this would actually happen. Oh, this is some baloney or something like that. But there's still some really entertaining performances, is what I'd say. And entertaining is what you look for at the minimum. I believe, and I think on top of the gorgeous cinematography, I would still recommend the season 3, even sitting at that 33%. But I would be worried to see this last 4, 5, 6 seasons. It needs to come to a halt because mostly these actors I've talked about in previous seasons, how they were pushing 30. They were like my age, pushing 30, and they're playing like barely 20, I believe. And so we kind of need to start wrapping it up, probably have a fast forward or something. And based off of the way this season ends, we're going to start talking about spoilers. Uh, it kind of feels like they could honestly just trail off. If they wanted to end it at the end of the season, they could. I don't think they necessarily left too many things open. So let's talk about this season in spoilers. Again, for the entire review, check out patreon.com/LuckyDog You'll be able to get the entire review. Everyone else will be getting a condensed review, and eventually we will be releasing the movies in full reviews from the Patreon. But those are locked up in the Lucky Dog Podcast vault for now, behind the Patreon tier with only $1. It's like for the cup of it'd be like buying me a cup of coffee. You could listen to hundreds of hours of Look It Up podcast Patreon exclusives. So be sure to check out that, and we are going to discuss what Outer Banks season 3 spoilers right now. So now I see me drinking this, but it's a sparkling water. I really don't know if sparkling water is bad for you, but I'm kind of obsessed with it more recently than not, because, the sodium free, calorie free, sugar free, and it kind of has a nice crisp at the end. I'm not crazy about the water I get out of my taps. Sorry, this is random. Need to do some research if these are okay and healthy for you. I'm sure anything that's not just flat out water is not got to be healthy for you for something. Anyways, such a side tangent. I digress. So I do not see anything that says season 4 has been renewed. Is that a big uh-oh for anybody? Oh, I just remember why I can't. I'm going to be burping through this. Oh, it's like the fizzy drink in Willy Wonka. So, my whole thing about this season, it's the season of the fathers, the sons, and sometimes the Holy Ghost. I don't know why I'm talking like that. So, I got to say, I love all the Pogues. These are phenomenal young actors. I think that each one of them could star in their own movie if they wanted to. I wouldn't want them like not their own movie about the Outer Banks, but something that they would play like a young person, kind of in the same mode, but not the same story. Anyways, I just gotta say that all of these actors and actresses are just like phenomenal. They're phenomenal. So they have this gravitas that makes you want to hang out with them. We start the season off on Poglandia. So at the end of the last season, they were fighting to Pope was fighting to get the cross. Cross is dropped in the ocean. Rafe decides not to shoot at them when they're leaving. We got all the Pogues in the boat, plus Cleo, who's now essentially a Pogue. So I'm going to call her a Pogue. Cleo was a girl that worked on the boat that was basically held hostage or something like that, and she just wanted to leave. Also, I believe, what was it? John B. John B. punches out Rafe's father, Ward, and he's like knocked out for the count, but still alive. Like I said, we're going to be discussing this in spoilers, and we're going to be kind of jumping all through the season, not in sequential order, mostly because I don't have it in front of me. For some reason, Wikipedia does not have it. Anyways, we start the season off. They escape the boat. They're stuck on an island for like 30 days. And apparently they don't have like any sex. I was like, I disagree. But anyways, I had forgotten a few things. That John B. and Sarah C. had gotten married, which I think the best thing to do is kind of talk about this season 3 through each of the characters. So the dynamic between John B, Sarah C, through the season, they're okay at the beginning. In real life, apparently they've dated and have broken up, and so there's speculation that season 3 was kind of a relation, kind of a mirror towards what's been going on with them or something like that. Anyways, shut your ass. Anyways, the over here computer must agree or disagree. Anyways, what was I saying? Oh, Sarah C, John B. It's another will they, won't they. Previous seasons have done this. She's gone away, gone over back to Topper. So we're gonna just discuss this through the whole season. The Sarah C, John B. John B is stuck with his father, John B Senior, Big John. And I've got a whole list of things to say about this kind of unlikable, greedy asshole of a guy through this whole season that we're supposed to like. John B stuck with him the whole time, doing little capers and shit. And so we have Sarah C, who's going off. Once they get off the island, they're saved by a guy that's looking for them, sort of. And so it's a little sketch, little not sketch. The first 2 episodes, I gotta say, I was pretty like engrossed. Like we are in Guadalupe, I believe, and it was a pretty compelling first two episodes. It was like this is like really heightened. It was like Narcos meets uh Outer Banks. Now we got these like drug dealer type uh scary gunmen looking guys looking for the pogues, all because they have the they know all the information, and John B and Big John and everybody knows where everyone's looking for the treasure. Everyone's got to get the MacGuffin to find the MacGuffin to get the guy to hit the teacher. Got to beat up a teacher, got to break in a place. It was a fucking wild ass season. I know I'm kind of all over the place, but uh John B, Big John, their relationship through this season is basically strained, and to a point of you realize Big John's kind of a big fucking asshole, and he's greedy, and he doesn't really care about his son, and for reasons he couldn't leave uh Singh's rule and stuff like that. I don't know, there's a lot of different reasons of like Big John was kind of not, there was a lot of time focused on him, and I didn't really like the guy. And so the ending hinges very heavily on it. And so let me continue on. John B, Sarah C, it's the will they won't they. She goes kind of back to Topper after fucking around in Outer Banks for a while. And like I said, I enjoy just being in the Outer Banks. uh uh, the B roll of Outer Banks is so much fun. Like I Sarah C just going through on a hot summer day, and on a bike. It just feels like we're just hanging out with them. Not even like thinking like nasty or some shit like that, like y'all are all thinking out there. But I'm saying, I just like hanging with the Pogues on the ravine, man, and just chilling. And so, she's going off doing her own thing, drinking beer from bars on the water and stuff like that, eventually running into Topper. And it's happened before that I was like, oh shit, Topper and her are kind of not that bad together. At the beginning of the season, I gotta say that John B was so underwritten in the first two episodes. I feel like he was barely saying anything. I feel like he hardly said anything on the Poglandia island or whatever, as well as once he gets to his father. I felt like it was just him kind of being obsessed with his father a little bit, and then slowly being revealed that he's not that great of a guy. It was just like, felt like a very underwritten use of the character, and it makes me think that I'm not sure what the writers think about John B at this point, because I felt like he's kind of like the voice of he's supposed to be sort of the voice of reason and like the every person, I guess. We're supposed to be like in his head because we're always hearing his voiceover. So this story is from his perspective in a way. It has on some sort of level. So, anyways, um, the first two episodes, I gotta say, I was pretty compelled by visually and just compelling. It was a lot of fun. The further it goes in, you realize Big John's not that great of a guy. We'll kind of go through the whole sequence of Big John now. So Big John apparently was capsized on an island at the end of season two, and it was shown that he was found by that Limbry lady or something like that, who wanted the Shrood or something, some sort of totem looking MacGuffin thing. And eventually we get it to her. Let's just go ahead and finish that out. I was like, that was the most boring side quest I think we've been working for a minute. And apparently we're starting to get some like mystical shit going on at this point. We got the totems with the eyes going mean, it's just like blinding. And so we, if the moon hits it correctly and whatnot. Anyways, uh she gets the shroud. She can apparently walk after that. She feels fine, and it might be some placebo effect. Doesn't matter if it works or not. It's all about how it makes her feel, that type of thing. And so she's not after Big John anymore, but she was, kind of fucking with them. Took John B's Twinkie mobile, the minivan, the Volkswagen bus. Love having that shit back. And so And let's continue on with Big John's dad, Big John Rutledge or whatever the fuck. So, anyways, he apparently they kind of did like a small rewrite. It feels like instead of being taken by Limbri, he was taken by Singh's guys, which is the big Scarface kind of ass guy who's like a treasure hunter that is looking for the Pogues, who's the ultimate big bad of the season. But the problem is he's kind of he is a cartoon even from the first two episodes. I don't know if he's introduced in the first one or second one, but the episodes where he's Sing is having to, boo ha ha his way, Dr. Evil almost. He's he's a cartoon in a way, but he is very much, super exaggerated, and we're at the point where things are not as realistic as they were in the first season. Got to step the levels up. The Pogues are now running into drug dealers and cartels and shit like that in damn Brazil or whatever, Guadalupe, sorry. But I'm like, I don't know what it is about this guy or this entire plot, but it feels a little bit hollow, as well as like the gunmen that are going. So he has like this entire Singh has like this entire gunman. He has an entire squad, like a mini army, and the Pogues are able just to just take them out with like fireworks and just like shindigs and kind of just doing it the Pogue way or something like that. I'm pretty sure his dad says that even at one point. I'm like, what does that even fucking mean? Like you used to say this? Like I thought this was just like a recent term that they used to use uh, on the island. Like it apparently saying Pogue and Kook was even used back in Big John's day and Ward's day. Anyways, I think Ward is a little bit more of a interesting character, even as a parental figure, a parental like father figure. And so, like I said, this season is about the fathers. And so, kind of looking at the reflection of the two, I still find Ward a lot more compelling, probably just because he was on screen a little bit longer. But like Big John he's just such a greedy ass this entire time. He's ringing the fucking bell for his son over the first two episodes. It feels like just ding, 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 like, and John B is like sitting like I don't know a couple like 5 miles away. Like that sounds very familiar to the come and get your breakfast, boy, before I come beat your ass. Like B- Big John Rutledge definitely did not. I don't. I don't know. He did not give many positive aspects in of a father figure that I thought anybody would want to portray. I felt like everything he did was almost in service of his own greed, even up until his death. And so, um, I think it was around episode 6 or 7, I realized that Big John Rutledge is not meant for this world. He's not meant for the next season, and he's not meant for this world. And to the point where they made him so unlikable this season that I was like, I don't care he's dead at the end. I felt way more for something for Ward, mostly because at least it felt like there were certain times he actually wanted to be a good dad. And there was I think they tried to do that for Big John B. Rutledge, but he does it on a dime. He shifts on a dime. It like he is like he's almost like Gollum levels of greedy. Like it's mine, it's all mine, my precious. Like he's so scraggly looking. Could you not shave the guy? Like, let me see what he actually looks like. Uh, Long scraggly ass hair. The dude looks like Hagrid took the keto diet for like 8 months, and not shaming the guy or anything, but oh my god, like he looks like a sketchy ass fuck. And if someone's dad was missing for I think a year and a half or something like that, then and came back looking like that, I feel like the first thing you would do is at least shave. But I don't fucking know. So it was around 6 or 7 that I realized Big John B. Rutledge is not meant for this world, and I realized that Rafe and Ward were having such a big fucking tassel over there that I was like, I don't know if they're going to be, making it through this either. And so let's talk about Ward, and then we'll talk, and then let's go to our favorite segment. Let's talk about Rafe. That's not really a segment or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure we said that in the previous season or episode. But it was so long ago, I can't even recall it. Let's just skip that bit. I digress. Anyways, let me get a little bit of about the pollen. Oh, coffee. Let me get coffee. See, that's why you can't be taking too many breaks. I almost forgot exactly. Oh, son of a fucking. Damn. Sorry, my fucking light just went out. I was so into it. So, anyways, that's what I was saying. Can't be stopping in the middle of convo because it'll lose train of thought. And my train of thought begins right now. Rafe. Everybody need to talk about Rafe. Let's talk about Rafe. Yo, this guy's going places. I have not seen this guy's acting list, but he by far carries crazy the best in this show. I don't have his name right now, but I'm going to look it up real quick. Just a little quick shout out of this guy, because Outer Banks, you fuck, you dumb motherfucker. Sorry, sorry, got some honey roasted peanuts and grab. Oh, sorry, so tasty, so honey roasted. Anyways, Rafe, Drew Starkley, dude plays crazy like no one's business. It feels like he almost goes method with it. He has to be kind of gnarly to his father figure in the show, and it's filled with like a layered performance. Like, this dude's head is all fucked with. The most interesting thing about this season 3, I feel like.
Playing from Elias's MacBook Pro.
No, the fuck you're not. No, the fuck you're not. Not on my watch. You dumb sack. So many distractions tonight. I don't know what they just don't want me to podcast tonight. Anyways, this actor, excellent. He's in Love, Simon, Hate You Give, Outer Banks. I think he's going to be in several more things. He's just plays crazy like no one's business. So, like I said, he has a very layered performance as Rafe Cameron, and he has to have this like very contentious relationship with his father in this season, Ward. It's just like, yo, this is hard to watch on some level, mostly because, I definitely had a contentious relationship with my father. It never got physical. I never pushed my father against the fucking wall like Rafe. Like, there's certain times that, I was like, why you man? Like I'd get mad, but like there was never physical stuff like that. I mean, we would sometimes yell at each other, but my dad always was very loving when it came to that. And so, this season was about fathers, and having lost my father in between season 1 and season 3, and seeing this go down in season 3, I'm not getting choked up. It's the pollen right now. I thought they kind of rushed the ending, and there were certain aspects of the fathers, both of Rafe's father, Ward, and John B., that I both liked and disliked. I thought some of the flashbacks with John B. Rutledge, Big John, were cute, but they overdid it, and then didn't do any sort of uh, follow up of, is this guy going to be a good father figure when he comes back? Is he meant for this world? And there were so many things he was doing. He was, covering up bodies. He was shooting people. I know there were certain times it was definitely self defense, and like it was like framed. The show was like framing it to like, oh my gosh, he's going off the deep end. It's like, no, these people were gonna shoot John B and his and Big John, and Big John had to save them on the jet skis. That entire sequence, John B is looking at him like, oh my goodness, my father just covered up a murder. It's like, these motherfuckers were going to kill you, man. Like, I understand he's meant to look like an asshole in most scenes. And to be honest, he was. But it was like the show had already made up its mind in like episode 3 or 4 that you know, we had the weird opening up of, like, is his father here, or is he all in his head, man? And it was like, oh, he's just like cleaning the fucking garage or something like that. And Sarah C sees him, and it's like, oh yeah, he is here. And so there, it's kind of I don't know, soap opera is not the right word, but I don't know. It's a slanted view. I felt like I was primed to be like, just fucking ripped at the end of this season. Just fucking in another emotional state. And I got to say that it just was rushed. The characters of the fathers were so unlikable by a certain point. Ward had flipped sides like 20 times. He was good up until like episode 9, which he was like, GPS signal down to El Dorado right now. And I was like, all right, Ward, let's just relax on that. Being evil so quickly. And then all of a sudden you want us to give us a shit about him at the end, which I feel like most of the episode at the end is like, Ward died, which he kind of was an asshole and tried to kill us a couple times, strangled Sarah C a couple times. He was not a great guy, but oh, John B, he was such a great guy. No, the fuck he wasn't. Like, I'm not really sure if they ever said that. Oh, he was such a great guy, but I definitely feel like they were like, oh, let's give Ward, the terrible guy, he falls off the fucking cliff, and sort of heroic sacrifice, but he's still like in not a very graceful position trying to tackle Singh's last henchman guy. It's like, oh my gosh, like Singh blows up in El Dorado where there's like $12 billion, $24 billion worth of gold in there. Do we want to talk about that? I looked at about the size of, I think it was like 1 pound of gold, and I think it was like $22,000. And I think the piece of gold that John B and Sarah C brought out had to have been like $1 million worth of gold at least. So that entire El Dorado place, which they are definitely colonizing. Like, one thing about this season is, are we not going to talk about how we are technically like colonizing El Dorado from Brazil or something like that? Like, they're like, ah, yes, we found it, it's ours. And it was like, wait a minute, we need to run that back. Are we not going to talk about that at all? And honestly, I don't know who owns that. I don't think that if explorers from another country find treasure in our country, it's their treasure. I don't really know how that works, honestly. I don't think that if Americans went in other countries, well, uh, maybe we should move on. Anyways, the colonization, I was like, what the fuck? I think they probably got a little over $1 million in gold in that little backpack. Probably, maybe more, because I don't know. I don't even know if they sold it. Anyways, let me continue on. The father's glamorized, and I feel like they, for some reason, want us to care way more about John B. Rutledge, even though the Big John, even though it's like he was kind of an asshole through this whole season. Really didn't like him. and the relationship between the two was kind of contentious more than not, and just was really didn't serve the plot to like really give I'm seeing such phenomenal filmmaking with The Last of Us. It's almost tethering and pushing my opinions of other things, of other content, to an extent. Like, be better. Like, it's phenomenal what The Last of Us is doing with just brand new characters that you're seeing in the first episode, and just instantly caring and giving a shit about them. And I feel like we had so many opportunities to give a shit about Big John. Or Ward had kind of his chance. He blew his chance multiple times. Um, so Big John, not a fan here, not a fan. And so continuing on, there's this like side plot where the cross is melted down by Rafe, and Teddy is his name. I forgot that one guy's name. He's a little sketchy, but I love their little dynamic duo. And so his buddy is the uh, guy that's trying to ask him if he wants to really stay. Sorry, if he thinks that his father should be, keep his father around, kind of thing. And he was like, Barry is his name, and so Barry is he's kind of just a hilarious little side character, and he seems very naturalistic. I like that guy. Uh, what was I gonna say? I'm gonna go with coffee. Okay, so Barry, I forgot he owned a pawn shop. Anyways, I'm kind of looking at some of these things. So Rafe, Barry melt down the cross. They melted into gold, which I know is immensely terrible, but from the bad guy's perspective, it makes them much easier to move. From a logistical standpoint of not having a fucking huge piece of a relic, I can totally understand why they did that, even though it was asinine and terrible. So I think you can see both ways. The rest of the story goes, Barry hires a hitman. Hitman tries to get Ward, but this hitman is hired by Barry on account of Rafe. Rafe is the one that decides that Ward needs to go. So Barry hires the hitman. Hitman tries to get Ward. Misses. Rafe kills him. And now they're on the same team, relatively. From there, Ward has to go to Guadalupe so that he's not seen in Charleston, even though he was already there in the first place, and just taking a convenient nap in the first episode, and then wakes up around the second or third episode. And that's when the contentious stuff starts happening with Rafe. But anyways, that's kind of how they begin. And so he ends up ending in Guadalupe as well. But they're on better terms. But Rafe doesn't know that that's the last time he's going to see his pops. But you can kind of see that their relationship has kind of run its course. Anything else? You know, the whole El Dorado treasure find was, it just felt like, oh, we need to find the Shrewd, to find the map, to find the teacher, to find the place, to find the El Dorado. It felt so intangible all fucking season that I was just like, all right, we're not even looking for like royal merchant type stuff anymore, which feels kind of like backburner whatnot. Which the Carla Limbri character, who was Ward's former associate, she's like terrible in season 2 and season 1, and is like written to the background, mostly is antagonizing Pope and his heritage and his family, and all of that jazz. But this season feels like it writes her in and then writes her right out, because it was like we know she's not an interesting storyline for some reason. And as a matter of fact, it feels like this royal merchant kind of gets put to the side burner, and in replacing, we're just gonna like royal merchant El Dorado. That sounds like a good place to go. Let's go there. Let's go there. And so it just feels kind of like a little jarring to kind of go from that to that, and now they're just considered treasure hunters at the end of the season, like some Nancy Drew looking for clues, uh not crime solvers, but like I said, tomb raiding type treasure hunters. Some dude wants them to go get Blackbeard's treasure or something like that, dude. I was like, all right, we've seen enough is enough, everyone. I'm like, I think that Oceans. I've been fighting not to say Oceans. Oceans Banks. No, Outer Banks is starting to run its course when we start to bring in Blackbeard, because it felt like we had such a grounded season in the first episode, and then at the very end, we're of season 3. By the end, we're fighting cartel members, flying into Brazil using drug planes. It's like really fucking stretching the credulity, I guess, of the naturalistic storytelling, but it's still like beautifully shot. So I'm just like, I can't complain about the way it looks. Like if it looked bad, I'd be like, all right, I can't watch this, because it's just like now we're not following any logical sense, and on top of that, we are not putting any money into the budget of what it looks like either. These actors, these characters are still a lot of fun to be with and hang with. um Kiara, Pope, Cleo. Let's talk about Pope and Cleo real quick. Pope and Cleo, they're a big will they won't they this whole season. Not a bad thing. I think they're really cute for each other. Pope's character, though, I really liked how he was just like the super intellectual one that just knew what to do, where to go. He's just the logical one. And I feel like he was so emotion driven this season that it really brought him back 2 steps. Was not crazy about the Pope character. Woe is me. I've got this great family. I've got this great life. And there's this big contrast with Cleo, which I love the Cleo character. Oh my gosh, this new actress as Cleo is Clarcia Grant as Cleo. I thought she was really a bright spot in the season, and a bright spot in Pogue's storyline too, because Pogue just gets so dark to the point where he's like, "I'm gonna finish him," about to, I think, shoot Rafe at one point, and I'm like, dude, you need to get some fucking therapy at this point, because you've got a great home life. You've got like both your parents. His parents are so fucking funny. I love Pogue's parents. I wish we got more scenes with them. They are so fucking like, but what the hell are you doing? Where the hell have you been this entire time? Chasing girls and pogues and kooks, and you got this treasure hunter, and then you got Danny Mash Tanner. What's his name? Uh, uh, Michael B. Jordan's treasure or something like that. I don't know what the hell. They are so they are so funny, and I feel like they're speaking what the audience is thinking like the majority of the time. They're like, oh my goodness, I really like Pope's parents. But I digress. So the only person I don't think we've talked about is Kiara. Basically, she's like put into a position of like a Bond girl at the beginning of this season. It's like, what is going on here? Like, she gets kidnapped and she's taken by Singh's guys, and she's got to wear like a sexy outfit, and she might have to join the forces. A lot of questions. I was like, I always liked the Kiara performance. My only gripe with it was she's taken into this like what feels like 3 different times it feels like uh-oh, Kiara's been kidnapped, whether it's by her parents or the cartel or someone else. I feel like Kiara is stays getting put in the damsel in distress kind of position, whether she's like, in that like that camp. Okay, so I got to talk about that camp real quick. So the Kiara camp, I went to camp. I'm not going to disclose where it was called, what it was called. People around here know which one it was. Close friends do, but it doesn't matter. I despised camp before I went to camp. I don't know why. Maybe I was just like a really pampered only child for the majority of my life, and so seeing this kitty hawk camp was giving me such PTSD. I wasn't taken in like that. I wasn't tricked into going, but one of my buddies uh, said, hey man, I'm going to this like fun camp, and you can do water sports. There's a lot of fun things to do. We're there for about 2 weeks. It'd be a lot of fun, that type of thing. And I was like, maybe I'll just live outside my comfort zone. And I had just gotten my contacts for you know from wearing glasses. I think it was like probably fifth grade, fourth or fifth grade, and so felt comfortable kind of going out and you know exploring this camp in Kitty Hawk that what's it called? Kiara had to go to. Kitty Hawk has a real place location in North Carolina, pretty close to Outer Banks, I believe. And so, and I don't know if you can get there in an hour and back when JJ was trying to do that. Oh my gosh. So I had to go to the camp. Long story short, I had to go to this camp. By like the second or third day, I wanted to escape just like Kiara. I was literally hiding under the beds. They were doing like some crazy fucking like cabin versus cabin extreme pillow fighting. Like everybody would beat the shit out of each other at the end of the night. It was crazy as shit. They would play like trance music and dance with the devil and shit. Like, dude, I was traumatized from a very young age. Like they were making us listen to like Immortal Technique at like fourth grade. I'm still like recovering from that. Go to an aftercast. I'm not sure which one I'll do, but one of the aftercasts I will discuss my camp experience because it literally traumatized the shit out of me. I never went to camp again. Fuck that shit. So Kiara's camp literally gave me PTSD from so many levels. I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here, and Kiara gotta get the fuck out of here. Like, I knew exactly how she felt. So she's captured, taken. JJ essentially weasels his way in. He's sly JJ. He's super nice, likable guy, talkable guy. That's how he does it. Always talks his way into shit. He's the talker. They're almost like a heist crew. They all have like their own specialties, except they're all just kind of bullshitters. So I do enjoy them, except for Cleo. I actually feel like she has actual um used. Can't she? Wasn't she like fishing at the beginning or something like that? Like she was providing for the majority of the group at the beginning. So, and they made Pokelandia look pretty fun. Not gonna lie. When after watching Triangle Sadness, I would never want to be on an island, but looking at Pokelandia, I was like maybe. I was thinking. So, um, continuing on, Kiara. Yeah, she's kidnapped at the beginning by Sings guys. In the middle, she's like, she's under a ton of stress from her parents. It's a will they, won't they with JJ. JJ's being an asshole in the middle of this, and then he has to apologize for the way he's acting. I'm like, why would you even act like that, man? So I was like, I didn't really understand that. They have that one rule where you can't date other pogues, even though over half of them dated everybody else. I don't know. So that, like I said, big will they, won't they. Don't let me forget that Topper almost tried to kill everybody by setting fire to John B's house. And there was a little sketchy CGI stuff going on there, but I got to say that Topper, dude, what the fuck? Everyone was rooting for you. We saw there was some decent, uh, you know, uh, Sarah Topper. I was gonna say Goobs. Pogues action where they were all doing the heist off the train and doing all the fun things, and Pope and Cleo had to act like a couple and stuff like that. Like, um, I honestly thought for a minute that Topper could be part of the Pogue crew, but he literally tried to commit. He did commit arson. He fucking destroyed all of John B's, I think it was John B's house. And so I'm not sure how that's going to end up. Maybe everything's forgiven at the end, but I was just like very dismayed with this guy. I was like, son of a bitch, this guy went into a fucking cartoon. With saying that, there was like a small scene of him and him and his mother getting in the car when Sarah C was going to press charges. Let's talk about this. So there's a big fight between John B and John B, Sarah C, and Topper. So basically, Sarah C, when she got in a fight with John B, she went and hung out with Topper. They had got a little drunk. She says she hooked up with him, which I'm assuming that means she slept with him, and that was on that island or whatever the fucking lighthouse shit was. And I had forgotten that they had gotten married and stuff like that, that John B and Sarah C had gotten married. It's like, dude, that's like double whammy. And so he's like super pissed. He goes up, beats Topper over the head, and then continues to pound on his fucking head. I was like, Jesus. I was like, yo, this guy went in. I was like, John B went off. And I was like, the thing is, this season does become predictable in a way. It's like, don't do it, don't do it. He did it. And it's like, you're like, don't, you're like Ward and John B's father in like episode 7, episode 8. You're like, oh God, y'all don't do it. Oh, they did it. And it's like, oh, and effed around and found out kind of thing. So, with saying all of that, Jesus, where was I going with that? Anyways, uh, you know, basically John B, Topper, Sarah C, the Sarah B, John B, sorry, them getting married and everything, and then her basically going against it. It just felt like they needed this to happen for some sort of like logistical reason. And then at the very end, you know, she's like, "I need you to do one more thing for me, and I'll stay with you, Topper." Sarah C says that, and it's like, dude, she's lying through her fucking teeth. She can barely say that with a straight fucking face, and so it's like, he's like, "Oh, you'll stay with me on the island forever." It's like, no, she ain't, man. She out, man. Dude, she don't like you, dog. And so he gets played like a fiddle, and they're waiting on the fucking strip. And of course, Rafe sees them. This is before all that. The night before, he tries to burn down their fucking house, John B's fucking house, and when he sees John B and Sarah C hooking up on the night that he was supposed to be hanging out with him. And yeah, he was pissed. And so he's like, so when they meet on the strips, he's like, so this was going to be. And he's like, all right, it's going to be that way. And so I think from there, Topper starts telling on them. I think he tells the sheriff department where they're at. He's like, yeah, I want to open up the case. I want to do the suit. I want to sue his ass or whatever the fuck, and send all the cops, I believe, to the airstrip. And so that's when all that's happening. And yeah, meanwhile, Key and JJ are doing a little escape from the Key Hawk camp. And the Kitty Hawk camp was fucking scary. When she was like being like followed by those guys, it was just like a slow reveal of these giant ass men who she's like, no, like being taken in. Like, do they really fucking do that these days? I haven't seen that done in a while. I feel like people don't. I don't know. I was like, what year is this? Like the 50s or something like that, acting this way. Very aggressive though. I'd be fucking flipping out with somebody grabbing me like that. I'll be like, how dare you? Oh, hands off. Do you know me? So anyways, anything else? I think that's about it. Not much to say about the sheriff, Doopity, or whatever the fuck. All the police stuff of anyone getting in trouble basically is swept under the rug. It's all good by the end of the season. Should have guessed that. They basically wrapped every single storyline up that I can think of. Would have liked a little bit more Wheezy. She's pretty fucking hilarious. She's like used as a pawn by Ward to lure Sarah there to that little like fishing shack, which I thought was kind of cool. I like that little fishing shack. Like I said, the thing about this show that I really like is it feels lived in, even though there are some like way over the top things happening in the season. Uh, it's I still like the aesthetics of people are just sweaty as fuck. They got these their clothes are barely hanging onto them. It's like looks uncomfortable to an extent. It just doesn't look like they're sitting in a little green screen background, CGI'd, whatever. So yeah, let me see if there's anything. Are they going to be going for Blackbeard's treasure? Do they need to be doing that at almost what they're going to be like 35 when the next season comes out? I don't know. I you know what I say is maybe do like a movie or something, give them some real money to see what they could do with it, and then kind of end the season. I always like a nice little movie at the end. But if we didn't get another season, which I think I did see something on IMDb that we're going to get another season 4 in 2024, but I don't have a confirmation of that. Uh, but anyways, yeah, I've in oh wow, uh, Drew Starkley's from Hickory, North Carolina. That's not too far from here. Um, anyways, I digress. This season was a little bit more sloppy for me than I was anticipating, but like I said, still so much practical effects going on in there that um, the a thing I like about it is just the aesthetics and hanging out with these individuals. It just feels like a very fun show to go through. And it's the thing that I always go back to is it's so breezy. It's paced pretty impeccably well. I feel like they know that their Netflix audience. So yeah, check out Outer Banks season 3. Let me know what you thought about the review, the show, the season, what you think about the next season is going to be. Are we going to be going for Blackbeard's treasure and whatnot? I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. JJ, I didn't really talk about JJ that much. I don't feel like he had too much of a big arc for this season. He's trying to get JJ's just trying to get a leg up. His father's out. I think they sent his father out of the country or something like that. I can't remember. He was abusive as fuck, and this season it just feels like his house is being foreclosed and stuff like that. He has no money coming in. He needs to kind of do little skeevy jobs to kind of stay afloat. Not much to say about JJ's character progression, but he does remain to have some of the best lines, I'd say. Fucking Goblin Mode's one of obviously top 10. So, like I said, let me know what you thought about. I was gonna say Ocean Banks. Let me know what you thought about Outer Banks season 3 review podcast, Apple Podcast, 5 stars, subscribe. You know what to do. Once we get 1,000 subscribers, we will have monetization powers at our control. So everyone that helps, um, be sure to do all that. You know what to do. Look at our podcast. Like, share, subscribe. LookAtOurPodcast.com. Take it easy. And Pogue Life for life? Hashtag?